And here we are again. A week flies by. Thank you for watching Confess with Jess, episode 5, where I am talking about Belfast and the Tragedy of Macbeth. I'm thinking this video is going to be a little bit shorter because I don't have much to say about, it's weird. I really loved one of them and I really disliked another. And the one I disliked has redeeming qualities, but because I liked one so fiercely and because I didn't enjoy one so fiercely, tremendously, I feel like I have less to say. I'm going to start with the Tragedy of Macbeth being the one that I liked the least of the two. If you remember from last week, I decided to talk about the two of these. I'm always finding connections, and these two were both monochromatic. So we don't have color. We have a burst of color in one of them, but for the most part, they are filmed in black and white. And kind of the antithesis of each is Belfast is nominated for 7 awards, whereas the Tragedy of Macbeth is only nominated for 3. So one of them is a Best Picture nominee, one of them is not. But I'm finding some, extremes, parallels between the two. Tragedy of Macbeth was probably excited about this more than most on my list. Ty and I had watched the trailer back, I think, it was when I saw West Side Story. I saw the trailer at the theater, so right before Christmas, and like just the visual effects and the stark like black and white with each of the actors, it felt so cold and raw, but striking in a way where very avant-garde, very like let's focus on the Shakespearean language more so than the scenery, which is weird because when you say it's visually stunning, aren't you more distracted by the scenery? But it was the lack of scenery for me. Very sterile rooms with, if it's a bedroom, just a bed, no other adornment. But you found yourself zeroing in on the surroundings more than the people, even with lack of surrounding. So I'll get to that a little bit later. But now for just the facts. The Tragedy of Macbeth is starring Frances McDormand and Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington is nominated for Best Actor in this role. I was a little surprised Frances wasn't, and if you know Frances McDormand, she has won a lot of awards recently, Best Actress in the past couple years. And I was stunned to find out, I did not realize her husband was Joel Coen, who directed this film. Of the Coen brothers, best known probably for The Big Lebowski, and also for other films such as No Country for Old Men, Oscar nominated as well. Never knew. They've been married since 1984, so there you go. I'm not as much of a film buff character actor as I think. I thought her acting was phenomenal. I usually find her great, but I thought she really engulfed a Lady Macbeth with the desperation and the passion and her, not only her hand gestures and physical movements, but the way she used Shakespeare's language. I can't say the same for Denzel. I was really shocked that, and I love Denzel, and he's been in some of, obviously, the best movies, and you can't say he isn't a phenomenal actor, but it fell a little flat for me. I thought the way he handled Shakespeare's language was a little flat. It was a little monotone in one note, and I was trying to see if that was purposeful. Like, we think of Lady Macbeth, right, as really the one behind the scenes, and she's kind of pulling the puppet strings of Macbeth, and Macbeth himself is kind of a shell of himself and letting himself be taken over by this passion that's really fueled by his wife. So maybe that was purposeful, but to me, it just did not feel robust. It did not feel believable. And I said this in a couple other of my videos where I kept thinking, you're Denzel, you're not Macbeth. And so I am a little confused of why he was nominated. But now I feel a little bit better because I thought when he was matched with the other actors, I was like, oh my gosh, if he knocks it out of the park, it's going to be Denzel all the way. And now I think it will probably go to Benedict Cumberbatch. Would I love for it to go to Andrew Garfield? Yes, of course. But I think probably it's going to Benedict now. But again, that's another video. This got a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb. But I've read a few articles where they do say that like Cohen fell flat, and that's most obvious by the snub of it is not nominated for Best Film and it is not nominated for Best Director. So it's Best Actor Denzel, Best Cinematography, and Best Production Design. Has a good chance for cinematography, I think, but a lot of people felt the visuals overshadowed the acting. And I mean, redoing Shakespeare, Macbeth has been done, I think I read something like 60 plus times in Hollywood. I know it the most out of any Shakespeare play. I read it and studied it in high school and college. I think it's one of his most famous tragedies. So a lot of critics were disappointed in the fact that, okay, Cohen, you're going to do this again. Give us, like, knock it out of the park. Give us something completely unique. And visually, I think he did, but in other areas, I think it fell flat. I'm going to give this one, man, I had a number, and then always when I talk about it, I give it a different one. I'm going to say a 2.5. 2.5 for this one. Don't feel emotionally connected to it. I did fall asleep 20 minutes in the middle, and I had to wake up and rewind. But that's always a sure sign for me too, that I'm not really into it if I'm falling asleep. Okay, let's juxtapose this to Belfast. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm giving Belfast a 4.5. I believe the only one you think I would know this, but I think the only one I gave that to was The Power of the Dog. And not for the story, more for everything else involved in it. Belfast is definitely my favorite one that I've watched thus far. And just an update of the 10 nominated films, I have now watched 6. I have 4 left. And I think I have 4 left and 3 others to watch that aren't nominated for Best Picture. So I'm getting there. We're going to accomplish this, guys. But I've watched a lot and I've reviewed a lot. And so far, this is my favorite. Does it have areas it can improve? Yes. Does it have holes? Is it perfect? No. But did I think about it probably the most after it was over? Yes. And did it hit me emotionally? 100%. More so than any other film has so far. So let's just go to the basics before we get in depth as well. 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, less than Macbeth, which I was shocked about, and a 7.4, so a little bit higher on IMDb. This was directed by Kenneth Branagh, and this is, if you don't know him, he's from Belfast, but we think of him as more of a British actor, playwright, director, writing screenplays, producer, done a lot of famous British films. That's how I have known him. But this is a memoir piece. So this is loosely based on kind of a coming of age story of himself growing up in Northern Ireland in 1969, during the time where the war really between the Protestants and the Catholics was in full force. And I had heard about this, and as I mentioned in past episodes, I'm an Anglophile, so I read a lot about what's happening in Britain and Ireland and Scotland. Yes, all those folks, the United Kingdom. So I knew about the religious wars, but I didn't realize in '69 that was happening. I mean, my parents were like 10 and 11 then, and I mean, Kenneth Branagh was 9 when this was happening, and it's a heavy subject. It opens up lighthearted, kids playing in the street in their neighborhood, and then mass destruction. It pours out, is an outbreak, and homes are destroyed, people are hurt, and this incredible scene where Buddy in the film, who's supposed to be Kenneth Branagh, played by the magnificent, oh, he's so good, Jude Hill, little 11-year-old. He was, I don't know why, I need to look this up and I'll probably put it above me. The youngest person ever nominated for Best Actor or Actress, because I literally feel like he should be nominated for Best Actor. He was so good, so charming, adorable. But there's this excellent scene at the beginning where he's just playing and he's heading home because his mom is calling him, and he stops in the middle of the street and he sees all the chaos, and the camera does a full 360 around him where he's frozen and all the chaos is going on around him, and it's so powerful. But it's lighthearted. It takes such a heavy subject and it puts this little boy in the center of it and how he's dealing with it. He's really like the lens that we're looking at this through. There's great messages like, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a Protestant or a Catholic. Like a lot of those messages, like it's about who you are as a person, against discrimination of any kind. And through Buddy's point of view, we're seeing like his love of film and cinema, and his family often go to plays and the movies for escapism. And it's beautiful because, as I mentioned, this movie is also filmed in black and white, and the only time you see color is when they're watching a film or a play. So they watch, I have to look this up. I forget what the first film they watched was. But the second one they watched is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which is one of my favorites as a kid. And the whole thing is in color. And during Christmas time, little Buddy goes to see a version of A Christmas Carol with his grandmother. And the people on stage are even in color. And there's this great scene where the reflection of the stage is in the grandmother's glasses, played by the phenomenal Judi Dench, who is also nominated for Supporting Actress. And you can see color reflected in her glasses. So cool. I thought that was a great touch. Going towards what they're nominated for, so 7 noms: Best Supporting Actor and Actress, which I mentioned, Judi Dench, Kieran Hines for the grandfather, wonderful moments between the grandson and the grandparents. It is nominated for Best Film, for Best Director, for Best Sound, Best Screenplay, and also Best Original Song, called Down to Joy by Van Morrison. And some kind of drama along here. Van Morrison has been very open. He's an anti-vaxxer, and he's very against a lot of the movement for vaccines, and kind of has a lot of conspiracy theory surrounding COVID. So I'm not sure how they're going to handle that at the awards. People were a little surprised that he was even nominated. But great, it is a great song. It's weird. I was looking for the soundtrack because it's great how the movie's set in the late 60s, early 70s, and a lot of the music they use is from that era, is from before that, and is from even later. But it works so well with, I think, the black and white. There's this one scene which is kind of jarring and out of the blue, but it's with the mom and dad. Dad, played by Jamie Dornan, yes, from 50 Shades of Grey, and Mom, played by the lovely, and I always forget her name, Catriona Balfe, who is from, you know it, and it's been on my list forever. There's so many books, and there's so many episodes. Have I watched it yet? Of course not. Outlander, right? So, beautiful couple. A little bit of a tumultuous marriage because the dad is kind of he's working in London. He's a gambler, and the family is in debt because of it. But you can tell they're like crazy about each other as well. So there's a scene where they are dancing together, and they're kind of at a club, and Everlasting Love is played, and the dad, Jamie, well, his real name, Jamie Dornan, is singing it, and he's obviously lip syncing it. But it's such a cool vibe with the black and white, and it's in the trailer, which really, and it always gets stuck in my head. The soundtrack is exceptional. Just beautifully done. I think, some critics have said, oh, it paints too much of a magical picture, that time was a lot more serious, and we've had so many coming of age stories about children who are, in the midst of chaos. Oh, what's another one? Kind of like Macbeth, right? If you're going to do the same thing, do it expertly, do it uniquely. I feel like Kenneth did. I mean, I don't think any movie is perfect, but I do think this one is heartwarming. It's visually pleasing to look at. The acting is incredible, and it's very humorous. That's another thing that I loved. All of the characters have little lines that are just like so funny and makes you just laugh out loud. I thought it was great. So I definitely give this one a 4.5. Different, I know both of these films, huge opposites here. But I think if I were going to I definitely recommend Belfast, and I do think it's going to be the one to beat. It's going to be Belfast and Power of the Dog. Unless Licorice Pizza blows me away, which I keep hearing a lot of good things about, I really think it's those two. I'm going to come down to those two. So next week, tune in next week, I am reviewing Nightmare Alley and Dune. And couldn't really find parallels, guys, why I was putting those together. Dune is epic, right? And sci-fi. And I was like, I really don't know what to match that with at all in this list. But Nightmare Alley is fantastical, based in kind of like a circus world. So I kind of see like the suspension of disbelief in both of them. And the only other parallel I can think of is both have all-star casts. So Dune, oh my gosh, Zendaya, Timothée Chalamet, blanking on so many other names. Nightmare Alley, Cate Blanchett, Rooney Mara, Bradley Cooper, Willem Dafoe, so all-star cast. I think we're going to talk about it for those. And also they're very long. Both are some of the longer movies. So that'll be next week. And then I'll have about 3 or 4 episodes left after that. No one told me if you liked Encanto. So please, if I have time, I'm going to try to watch that. But please write in the comments and tell me if you liked that film. And then tell me if you watched either of these or if you've watched other ones from my previous 4 episodes. If you watched any and you agree or you disagree, tell me. I'd love to have a conversation. All right, guys. Stay safe. Enjoy yourselves. And until next time, this is Confess with Jess.